Former President Donald Trump is continuing his attacks against former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. During a campaign stop in Michigan on Friday, the former president called Cheney a coward and a disaster.
Oh, yeah, sure. She's a war hawk. She kills people. She wanted to, even in my administration, she was pushing that we go to war with everybody. And I said, if you ever gave her a rifle and let her do the fighting, if you ever do that, she wouldn't be doing too well, I will tell you right now. But she's a war hawk. She wants to go kill people unnecessarily. And if she had to do it herself and she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it. So it's easy for her to talk, but she wouldn't be doing it. She's actually a disgrace.
Joining us now, MSNBC political analyst Brendan Buck. He was communications strategist and former aide to House Speakers Ryan and Boehner. And he ran the New York City Marathon yesterday. Congrats to Brendan for doing that and then being here early the next day. We really appreciate it. So let's first start with these comments here. They come after, of course, he suggested that Cheney should face a series of guns and be fired upon. You know, it's that sort of dangerous rhetoric that the Harris camp thinks will turn off, you know, some independents or, you know, sort of Republicans who are thinking of holding their nose and voting for Trump, but then may opt not to.
Yeah, it plays into obviously the dangerous comments, but also just the idea that he's vengeful. And that's her message, right? That he's going to come in with an enemies list and she's got a to-do list. Liz Cheney is clearly stuck in his mind and he can't get over it. It just reinforces that if he is put back in power, he's going to go first and foremost after the people who criticized him. It is also obviously, I think, self-defeating in that there's a lot of people who are used to voting Republican who are looking for a reason to hear Donald Trump tell them it's going to be okay to vote for them. They don't like him, but it's really hard for them to vote Democrat. They want him to reassure them in some way. But at every opportunity, he can't do it. He goes after, you know, other Republicans. It's also notable when you have a gender gap that he's so obsessed with Liz Cheney, the top woman going after him. He doesn't go after Adam Kinzinger as much. He goes after Liz Cheney. So he continues to do things that sort of play into his weaknesses because he just can't help himself.
Yeah, that's a good point there. We also talked about his effort. You know, the Harris campaign sees this, right? And they've spent a lot of time and effort, with Liz Cheney's help, trying to reach across the aisle and win over some Republicans to say, hey, even just once, don't tell anybody, just come vote Democrat. Do you think, how would you gauge their efforts? Do you think it's been successful?
I think they've done everything right. I think the question is, how big is that universe of voters? Like I said, I know a lot of Republicans who don't like Donald Trump, but they have a very hard time with the idea of voting for a Democrat. Maybe they just don't vote. Maybe they write in. She's running a very traditional playbook. Shore up your base, but then try to get those swing voters who Donald Trump has completely left open for the taking. He has no interest in trying to win back people who voted for Nikki Haley. That hurts his ego too much to try to win back those people who offended him so much. So they're right there for the taking. The question is just how many of those people are there? She's done everything you can ask for in that way. And whether or not they turn out for her is the big question.
And unless there's a last-minute surprise today, Trump will never campaign with Nikki Haley. It just didn't happen.
Or even speak to her.
Yeah, that's remarkable. You were struck by something, as was I, over the weekend, which is this increased rhetoric, Trump ramping up these ideas that the election is rigged, that there's voter fraud, and seems to us that, you know, he's paving the way to, if he were to lose tomorrow night or the days ahead, that he would claim the whole thing was rigged and really try to fight it. Give us your assessment as to what that could look like and how worried are you?
He has so convinced Republican voters that there is no way that he can lose, that they are absolutely winning. And the only explanation, if he does not win, is cheating. And he's laid so much groundwork. And we've heard that kind of stuff from him in the past, and we heard it, I think, a little bit in 2020 and even in the primary back in 2016. But now we know what that looks like. Right. We know what happens. It's not like, oh, what's he getting at there? It's very clear what he's getting at when he says things like that. And it would not surprise me at all if he comes out very quickly and tries to say that the election was stolen. We have no evidence anywhere. And they can't cite evidence anywhere. He's just sort of generally saying that they're trying to steal the election. His supporters hear that. And you're going to have a lot of people who, if he does not win, which is a very real possibility, they're going to be looking for answers to explain the loss, and that's when we know it's going to be a replay of what happened 4 years ago.
Yeah, it could be a lot of anger and fears of violence, and I think you're right. We should expect him tomorrow night, no matter what the vote totals say. He'll declare victory at some point tomorrow. So here we are on that last day of the campaign. I'm not going to ask you to predict a winner, but just where do you assess things stand right now? We got a lot of polls over the weekend. One in particular out of Iowa, a real surprise. The rest show, hey, close race. Yeah. Maybe there's some data that suggests that people who are deciding late are breaking for Harris. What do you think that means? Where are we?
Well, typically you look at the person who people break to later has the better favorability. And clearly Kamala Harris has much more favorability. People like her better than they like Donald Trump. So that's very good for her. But there's a lot of cross currents. There's a lot of people self-identifying with the Republican Party a lot more than they have been in previous years, which tells you something as well. Obviously, the poll in Iowa could show a strength in the Midwest that we don't necessarily appreciate. And if she does have a lot of strength in the Midwest, that could be the whole ballgame. She can just win it by winning those Midwestern states. So I think, as you know, it's anybody's guess at this point. But what's encouraging is you have a lot of people turning out, a lot of early enthusiasm, and people care, and so that's great.
Yeah, the Republicans seem fairly confident about Arizona. Some alarm bells going off maybe about North Carolina, which is why Trump is there time and time again in recent days.
Absolutely.
But the whole ball game might be indeed the 3 blue wall. MSNBC political analyst Brandon Buck. Brandon, thank you again for being here this morning. We really appreciate it. We will talk to you again real soon. Up next, here on Way Too Early, Kamala Harris makes a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live. We'll play for you some of her skit with actress and her doppelganger, Maya Rudolph. And then, coming up on Morning Joe, a closer look at Donald Trump's weekend full of dark rhetoric, while Kamala Harris continued to spread her message of unity. The Atlantic's Tim Alberta will join the conversation to discuss what he says are the ruthless and restless final days of Trump's campaign. We'll bring you his new piece. Plus, new polling shows the race is still tight, though Harris appears to be gaining some ground with some key voting blocks.